Obama sobre o estado atual da política americana.
Well, I think what you were talking about cynicism and disengagement is now there's a level of fear that is real.
Right. And justified.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, what happens, in terms of what we're talking about, all the things that you lived through and we lived through, whether we were kids or not, the progress that was made, civil rights, gay rights, women's rights, things, policies that were meant to, make an attempt at sort of expanding democratic ideas. Yeah. And you always had this core group of the other side that have been, trying to dismantle this from, since the New Deal. Yeah. But now, and look, the left and people like me, you throw around the words, fascism in relation to authority, just willy-nilly.
Right.
And you talk about authoritarianism as if it's something that happens everywhere else. And I think right now you have a lot of people who are still locked into this like it could never happen here. But at some point, don't we have to wake up and say, it's happening?
I think there is no doubt that a lot of the norms, civic habits, expectations, institutional guardrails that we had, that we took for granted for our democracy, have been weakened deliberately. I don't think they're destroyed, but I think they have been damaged. And they've been systematic about it. When I used to travel around the world, this is back when democracy promotion was still bipartisan, right?
Yeah.
George Bush was for it. Bill Clinton was for it.
Yeah.
I was for it. Marco Rubio apparently was for it, right? So it wasn't controversial for me to go to other countries and say, you know what, it's a good idea for militaries to be under civilian control. Because when you have military that can direct force against their own people, that is inherently corrupting. And so when you now start seeing the politicization of the military, deliberately, right?
They just landed in Chicago.
Yeah. When you have what looks like a deliberate end run around not just a concept, but a law that's been around for a long time, posse comitatus, that says, you don't use our military on domestic soil unless there is an extraordinary emergency of some sort. That when you see an administration suggest that ordinary street crime is an insurrection or
a terrorist act,
that is a genuine effort to weaken how we have understood democracy. And that was understood by Democrats and Republicans. I always try to, it's almost too easy of a thought experiment. If I had sent in the National Guard into Texas and just said, you know what, a lot of problems in Dallas. A lot of crime there. And I don't care what Governor Abbott says. I'm going to kind of take over law enforcement because I think things are out of control. It is mind-boggling to me how Fox News would have responded.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times where I remember there was a moment, I don't remember what year this was, where the military just had regular exercises in Texas, out of one of the bases, Fort Hood, and Ted Cruz and a number of other folks were out there lending credence to the fact that I was preparing for, the whole black helicopter, one world government. I was about to take over Texas. And this is like a sitting U.S. senator.
Yeah.
Was like kind of retweeting about what's going on with these exercises.
Secret ops.
I didn't even have any, I didn't monitor military exercises because you know what? That was the Pentagon's job. That was the Secretary of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the COCOMs. That was their job to prepare and focus on military readiness, and then they'd report to me. The point is that we have blown through, just in the last 6 months, a whole range of not simply assumptions, but rules and laws and practices that were put in place to ensure that nobody's above the law, and that we don't use the federal government to simply reward our friends and punish our enemies. And the same thing's obviously happening in the Justice Department. So people are right to be concerned. The interesting thing, and what I've been trying to do when I've been speaking about this publicly is just to remind folks, just as was true during the McCarthy era and has been true throughout our history, what's required in these situations is a few folks standing up and giving courage to other folks, and then more people stand up and kind of go like, yeah, no, that's not who we are. That's not our idea of America. Mm. We don't want masked, folks with rifles and machine guns patrolling our streets.
Yeah.
We want cops on the beat who know the neighborhood mm-hmm. and the kids around, and that's how we keep the peace around here. We don't want kangaroo courts and trumped up charges. That's what happens in other places that we used to scold for doing that. We want our court system and our Justice Department and our prosecutors to be, and our FBI to be, just playing things straight and looking at the facts and not meddling in politics the way we've seen lately. And I think if enough people start not just being in a fetal position, but also not worrying about it and
detached
and detached from it, but being vigilant, but also saying, you know what,
enough of this shit.
We can stand up to this. We can call it like we see it.
Yeah.
We need people who have whatever platforms they have to be able to say, no, that's not who we are, and to be willing to get attacked on X by whoever for doing that. And it's not easy.
Yeah, because sometimes you fear for your life.
Yeah, and there's this whole process of doxing and I always used to, Michelle and I talk about the fact that a lot of our friends, we used to call them civilians, because if they got criticized, on the comment page about something, they'd be freaked out.
Right.
And we're like, you know what? I mean, we've had so much, incoming over the course of 10 years. Now we chose it, or at least I chose it, as Michelle will point out, and she was subjected to it. You do get a tougher skin, but I understand how it's hard when suddenly your email or your phone is filled up with hostile, nasty,
trolling garbage,
right? Yeah. And you've gotten used to it too.
Este site pode ajudar você a melhorar sua leitura e compreensão auditiva em inglês. Com inteligência artificial, ele divide as frases em partes menores e fáceis de entender. Na ferramenta de reprodução, você pode ajustar a velocidade, pausar ou voltar para entender cada frase. O site oferece tradução para 20 idiomas, facilitando o aprendizado. É só digitar inglês.com no navegador e experimentar.